Happy New Year, kids. This is the Borderline Man, and I wanted to address a topic I've been thinking about in the last few days. It's the generational thing, and it's the Gen X thing. I'm a Gen X. I'm really in the peak of it, actually. Born in 1975. I've grown up in a very, very changing world, I think. And what is a Gen X? Well, if you look at the internet, you're going to find a lot of videos of Gen X creators that try to focus on what's so great about Gen X's. And there's going to be some, exaggeration, hyperbole, I know. I mean, it's never simple. It's never black and white. It's never kind of anything of these things. But I think there is a grain of truth to all of this about Gen X's. And what is unique about my Gen X experience? Well, firstly, we are not a very large generation. We are a bit fewer in number than the boomers and the millennials. So we are not, we're not in numbers. We're not very plentiful, and we're also a generation that, if you look at success, we've been a bit mixed bag. You're going to have a couple of, and I think they are Gen X's, like these tech bros that are going to be outliers, I think. I don't think they are very representative at all. I think they are very unique when it comes to numbers. Because I think most Gen X's aren't very extremely successful. We are suffering from the same things as the following generations do, with troubles buying homes and so on. We are not the generation before us, the boomers. They surely had a lot going on for them when it comes to opportunities. We are the children of the boomers. We are children of hippies. Actually, many of us are. So we were born in a society of change. In general, the 70s were a period of recession, and people started to look at reality of things. It's a very social, realistic era. It was a time when the old conservative society started to crumble, and we had a period of very much liberalization of things, the women's movement and all those things, progressive movement. And then came the backlash in the 80s with more conservatism again, the neon conservatism with financial growth and so on again, ultra capitalism. But we were raised in all of this, a period of massive change. And the social changes were huge. But I think, and this I think is the most important thing, it was an era of mixed things. When I was a kid, you had both a lot of practical things still going on. The old ways. When you still played very much physically outside, going out and playing to the middle of, the night with your friends in the forest and all kinds of stuff. And if you weren't raised and you weren't born in that time, well, look at stuff like Stranger Things. It kind of portrays quite good how things were. There was a lot of social interaction going on and so on. But that's not unique for Gen X. I mean, that was a thing for generations before us as well. The unique thing is probably we had lenient rules, I think. I think we, more than many others, were allowed to do things and so on. We had parents that were, in their mind, quite progressive and wanted to try new things and not be so strict, but they still were quite strict. So it was a mixed bag of things. It was a still quite probably naive society with a lot of perhaps not understanding the dangers of things. But the good thing was when those of us who survived this dangerous world, with parents smoking and no seat belts, and we're allowed to be whatever we wanted to be outside and so on. For us that survived this, it was probably very educational on a social level. We became resourceful. We are very capable of finding things to do, be creative. Entertainment wasn't served to us at our pleasure. We had to also, adhere to times and stuff like that. If we wanted to watch cartoons, they existed maybe on special occasions, on weekends, and you had to sit there on time to watch it. So we learned to appreciate special times a lot. You couldn't go online to watch things when you needed to. Things became, precious. Same thing with information. It wasn't readily available everywhere. You had to, actually look for it. All those discussions you could have about, hey, what was the name of that actor in that movie? And you just sat there and you had to discuss it with your friends, and it became a debate. You couldn't really look up the answer. So you had to wait until either someone showed up that actually knew the answer perfectly, or could just, bring out the VHS cassette and show you, hey, look at there. It starred Sean Connery, and you got the answer. Or you have to go to the library and find the answer there. Information, whatever it was a valuable resource. And this is a basic thing. If something is very easily accessible, it loses its value. And I think that is a fundamental problem of the internet society, is that information is not valuable in people's mind. I mean, it's not difficult to find anything. You can find anything, and then it simply loses its value. And with it, we also lose the respect for authorities when it comes to knowing things. I think this is a pandemic, basically, of the mind these times. People don't know the value it takes to acquire actual hard knowledge about things. And this has seeped through the generations. It's not just the generations following. It's a common thing, a bad thing. And we appreciate, I think, as probably the last, or maybe to some extent the millennials also do this, the value of actual knowledge. But it's definitely on the decline. And then there's the where's I'm going now? I lost my track. I'm an old man, Well, it's the generational. I mean, we can get a bit arrogant for sure about this, but I think there's a certain thing going on here that can explain a lot of things. Yeah, now I remember. the technological things. We are born when and raised during a time when technology in our homes advanced very rapidly. We are the generation of the first home computers, the first video games. And I remember back in those days, all those machines were, how should I put it, a bit magical, because being a part of knowledge, of the generation who valued knowledge still, and also young, we definitely tried to learn and understand what was going on. I mean, if you had an old computer, an old video game console, like in, a Commodore 64, remember those? You had to master certain things to make it work. It was a problem of, the cassette player and the tapes and re-rolling them and all those things. There was a lot of tinkering going on with every technology. If you had a VHS player or a Betamax or whatever you had, it was the problem of tapes. So there was a lot of tinkering going on. And then you had, if you wanted music, you could create mixtapes. You recorded stuff from either your friends or from the radio, if you were lucky, and then you created a mixtape of your selection of music. This took time, this took an effort. And then you had friends that wanted a copy of this tape, perhaps, and you gave it away to another friend. All these things took some, knowledge to master, to be good at, to make it work. And I remember my first computer was it was a Commodore, but then I got an Amiga and I started to get into, like many other people, hey, I want to try creating my own stuff. So I tried, programming to do things on my own, to create stuff. Very, very basic stuff, but still. And I remember feeling this magical feeling of creation that I have never felt in later years, because you don't have that magical feeling with software development anymore. You don't really. It's not that same thing. So that's also one of the reasons you can see actual computer geeks, actual Gen X nerds in their spare time. They often have an old computer and try to do things on that, because that is actually more fun, because you are closer to the core of it. You're closer to being able to tinker with stuff, to tweak stuff. It's not layer upon layer upon layer, hiding everything, making everything impossible to fix. It is something you can actually physically do things to tweak it. And that magic is gone today with today's technology. Today you have a replace stuff technology. If your phone is broken, you replace it. You can't open it up and, hey, let's try this. Let's use the soldering device and try to fix it. Nope, you can't. There's nothing you can do. So the magic of being able to fix things is gone. So where am I going with this rant? Why am I talking about this on a channel of mental health? Well, I think Gen X's are very good at problem solution, including the mind, including fixing mental stresses. Because we know we have it in our core, and I'm generalizing, I know, there's plenty of people who don't. But if we look at us as a group, we will have it very fundamental in our core that we have an interest in how things work and how to fix them. We are born and raised during a time when everything of these things, these big things that we'll have today, happened. We weren't raised with internet. It came in our late teens or 20s. So I know, at least I did, the first of us, we were interested in how it worked. How does a, modem work and so on. I remember the magic of the movie War Games, with the hacker who broke into the United States defense system and accidentally started a nuclear war game there. It's an excellent movie because it actually shows two very good things. It shows the actual process of hacking in those days quite good, actually. It's not like today's many movies where it's just, you know, someone typing rapidly on the screen and I'm in. It doesn't work like that. It's a hard struggle to hack something. And this movie does a good job showing this thing. And it also shows the magic of being the first to do something, being the first to, you know, tinker with something. That is so typical of this era. And I think that is why it's also very easy to be nostalgic about this era, for good and bad. I mean, the silver lining is always there, and in reality, you know, it is always a lot more complicated. But still, no smoke without fire. These things were real. These things happened. And I wouldn't ever trade my childhood for any other period I've seen or heard about before and after. There are so many good things today that we didn't have, but I don't think I would appreciate them as much if it wasn't for the bad things in my time and so on. So that's it. That's also a thing. And I think it gave me some of the resources to analyze and handle some of my mental issues that I don't really see a lot of younger people do. I see they are more prone to, you know, reaching out, wanting to find help, quick fixes that don't exist on the internet and so on. And they want someone just helping them. They are not resourceful. I'm not saying this is a rant or a show off, and I know there's going to be a lot of exceptions, but I think it's probably a thing. Let's put it that way. So yeah, Gen X's, I know we can be obnoxious on the internet with our, hey, you weak sissy ass, we can handle this, you can't. I know these videos are a bit obnoxious, I know it. But you know, and to some extent, it is actually the truth. So, older people, younger people, take care and learn to tinker with things. Learn to appreciate and respect the value of being bored, being forced to understand things the hard way, because it is very, very valuable to actually dig into things. All right? Until next video, have a good one.